Hey guys, Peter here to tell you about the latest from Gloryhammer, Return to the Kingdom of Fife, out June 2nd on Napalm Records. The album has 10 tracks, 48 minutes in length, and this is the band's 4th full-length studio record. They are a UK symphonic power metal band. When I looked at the design of this album, I saw a record that understands the concept, and then it tries to simplify that concept so the listener can become engaged with the experience right from the get-go. And it all starts off with the intro track. The intro track is almost like you're opening a book, or you're getting a little bit of a taste of what the rest of the record is going to offer you. It's subtle, but it's important, so that you don't start off the album right away with a song, right away into the midst of things. Having that little intro really helps the process of enjoying this record a little bit more. It's the beginning. And this album also has a middle, and it definitely has an end. It's a record that's complete from that point of view. But once you get into the flow of the album, you'll realize that this is a very dynamic, very fluid, really pushing you forward, but with the right pockets in the right place that slow things down, allowing you to better appreciate what came before and what comes after. You always need certain pockets within a record like this, a record that has a lot of movement, because otherwise the album almost overtakes the listener. And as a listener, you want to be able to enjoy the record step by step and follow the record through. So having those breaks at the right time allows you to do just that. It makes the album easier to digest, easier to process, and by association, it's a lot easier to understand where you are within the story and to understand the overall arching concept of the record. Another element that they added that I thought was really important, not part of the structure but more of the vocal performance, is having the characters speaking in the first person. This also adds to where you are within the story. It also adds value to you understanding the story a little bit better, for you to connect a little bit deeper with the experience of listening to a record like this, because these albums are not designed to just be consumed one song at a time. They're really designed for you to go from first to last and have that experience of enjoying the overall journey that the characters go through. So having those vocals, those characters speaking in the first person, it adds incredible value to the overall experience. Now, once it comes into the sound, I wasn't expecting this album to change the dynamics or to change the DNA of Gloryhammer. I was expecting this to be a symphonic power metal album that puts a lot of emphasis on the symphonic side. And that's exactly what this album offers. Perhaps the main difference in the overall sound that I could see from this record to previous records is that this album still has a theatrical touch. It still has a cinematic touch. But I think it's starting to move more towards almost a cartoon theme song. Think about Thundercats, think about He-Man. Those cartoons, She-Ra, those cartoons had great soundtracks. It had a great theme song to them that the moment that song went on, you knew exactly what you're going to get into. This record, the tracks kind of come across as theme songs, every single one of them. And that is the main difference that I saw on this album sound-wise from its predecessors. So it ties up the concept with the theme-driven style approach that works really well for this album, and it's perhaps the only novelty that I can define in the overall sound experience. Because when you look at the meat and potatoes of this record sound-wise, the symphonic elements are driving the experience. They're expanding the songs, they're giving them that theme vibe, sometimes a little bit more theatrical, sometimes a little bit more cinematic. They're making the tracks feel more robust, a little bit larger, infusing a lot of melody, creating a lot of layers. And that is something that we've seen before from Gloryhammer, and you're going to see it again on this album. Then the drums and guitars have different roles. The drums and guitars, at times they feel more as almost one single element, a single wall of sound. The guitars have some thickness to them in some tracks. In some tracks they're almost overtaken by the symphonic elements, and they define themselves a little bit less, becoming more of a break in a huge wall, but not necessarily a break that stands out from the rest of the pack. That is the guitar sound element that you're going to find throughout this album. It has this morphing ability to either move into the forefront or to completely be hidden underneath everything else. The only time that the guitars jump into the forefront, and that is consistent from start to end, is in the guitar solos. In the guitar solos, you really feel like that is the time for the guitars to shine, for them to have the spotlight on them. And the guitar solos on this record are really good. from start to end. They always bring more quality to the song. They always bring more quality to the story. They always bring an addition to what's already happening musically within the track. They just elevate it and they remove all the borders around it. So that is the time where you see the guitars kind of standing on their own in a podium with a spotlight, massive spotlight on them. Outside of that, it varies. Some tracks a little bit more thickness, a little bit more heaviness, a little bit more power. Some tracks a lot less. But you always feel like the symphonic elements are overtaking them, regardless of which one of those two you're going to get from the guitar sound. Now, the drums are a little bit different because the drums have the ability to tie themselves into that guitar sound, creating that wall of sound that I mentioned earlier, but they're also able to break away from it and have more of a direct impact on the sound experience. What you get from the guitar solos, you get from the drums, but the drums not in a solo format, more in terms of where they are within the mix, where they are within the layers, and how much power and impulsion they're going to give to the songs. Because I don't feel like the drums on this album are there to ground the sound. They're there to catapult the sound forward. So that's going to be the dynamic approach that you're going to see from the guitars, and you're going to see from the drums. The two having some similarities between them, but also having quite a bit of differences as well. Now, the vocals. The vocals is perhaps the biggest question mark coming into this album. And I honestly don't feel like the singles answer those questions. The album will. I'm happily surprised that I got a much better vocal performance all around from throughout the record than what I was expecting. The two singles that came out didn't really show all the cards. There's a lot that you're going to discover when you listen to this album that you didn't see in the singles. Some songs still feel slightly disconnected. Maybe disconnected is not the right word, but they feel a little bit underwhelming, if you will. I don't feel like the vocals gave everything that they could within certain tracks. But more often than not, the vocal performance on this album matches the flow, matches the creativity, and definitely the excitement and the overall theme-driven idea that this album has. When you have theme songs, the hooks are there, the overall catchiness of the track is there, the vocals are more of an enhancement, and they don't need to get in the way of everything else. And I felt like they did that extremely well throughout the record, and the overall vocal performance definitely surpassed all of my expectations. And when you look at that, and you look at the overall design of the record, and you look at the overall concept, I have to say this album is a lot better than what I was expecting coming in. It's obviously going to feel different. The band changed lead singers. That's, it's there, it's obvious. But you have to judge this record for what this record is and not for what the band used to be. And for what this record is a record, like I said, that the singles were kind of hiding a lot of the quality than the overall album has. I honestly feel like there's better songs on this record to be singles than some of the ones that they decided to go with. So it's a good album by Gloryhammer, an album that's actually a lot more fun to listen to. I like the theme-driven idea of this album musically, thematically, and even from a vocal point of view. There's so many great hooky, catchy songs throughout this entire album. And like I said, sound-wise, not much has changed. So it's an album that stays close to shape, stays close to form to what Gloryhammer has always been. And now you have a different vocal approach that you just have to get used to it. I enjoyed this album tremendously. It was a lot of fun to go through this record, to listen to these songs, and find some tracks here that are going to become Gloryhammer staples going forward. I have zero doubts about that. And one of those songs is Wasteland Warriors' Hoots Patrol. I'm shocked that this song wasn't a single. If I'm putting this album together, and if I'm putting a press release together and working on the release of this album, promoting this album, I'm telling them this has to be the first single. It's an outstanding song. It has a lot of 90s techno dance hit blend sound to it, even in a construction standpoint on how the song was created. But it also has that 90s cartoon theme song hook catchiness, almost poppy to a certain degree to it. So it's a track that blends two great elements together that allows the song to be an earworm immediately. The chorus is phenomenal. The chorus is Gloryhammer. It's catchy. It sounds great. The lyrics are super fun. It's a super fun track all around. A track that has a little bit of a bite, a little bit of some heaviness, some thickness in the verses, more explosive and bubbly in the chorus. It has a great solo section, really dynamic, a lot of life in that solo section. It has a great overall synth melody that infuses itself and becomes the spine of the overall song. It's a track that has great elements. It has that first-person character speaking. I mean, it's a track that has all the great qualities of Gloryhammer and all the great qualities that you're going to see throughout this entire record. This honestly should have been the first single. Next you have Brothers of Crail. Great power metal song, perhaps a little bit more power metal than symphonic power metal. The keys are still there, but I felt they're there more to create an ambiance, more to create an atmosphere, a cinematic one at that, creating a nice little blanket that covers the song. This allows the guitars to have a little bit more control, and this allows the drums to also have a little bit more volume, so you see more of the guitar sound. You're able to detect more of it, you're able to digest more of it. Same could be said for the drums, with the symphonic elements more in the background, more as a layer, allowing the overall track to become really big when it gets into the chorus. It has a really nice chorus dynamic that almost feels like you're listening to a Manowar song once you hit that chorus. It has a mixture of different elements that jumps out in terms of how it's put together and how it's delivered. The choirs really help to that. When you have that choir style approach in the background and then vocals on top of it hitting that chorus, you have that Manowar, battle hymn, warriors of the world. You have all of those condiments there, and this song really does well in bringing him into the forefront, but with a Gloryhammer twist to it. That's how this track comes across. I really enjoyed it. It was a super fun track to listen to. Last but definitely not least, Fife Eternal. Of the three that I picked, this is the most direct song, and outside of the intro track that's under the 2-minute mark, this is the shortest song, just around 3 minutes. But it's direct, it's to the point, and it works. It still has that cartoon theme style sound to it. It has that approach both musically and vocally. It simplifies the lyrics, it simplifies the approach, it simplifies the music. It's an easy track to connect with because it's easy to understand, it's easy to follow, and it's easy to just really see what the track is trying to do and what the purpose of this song is within the overall concept of the album. Another great chorus, another song that's an earworm. The chorus is hooky, the chorus is catchy, it's memorable, great lyrical content that really becomes emphasized by that chorus. Great song all around, simple to the point, but exactly sometimes what an album needs. Alright guys, this is it. Gloryhammer, Return to the Kingdom of Fife, out June 2nd on Napalm Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care guys.